I did not grow up a believer. My mom, I don't want to speak for her, but I would say my assessment is that her experience growing up Catholic in the 60s was kind of traumatic. So I didn't grow up with any relationship with God, any faith. It wasn't presented negatively, but kind of. It was obsolete in my life. And I'm sad to say, in certain periods, I would sometimes even mock God. I lived a very empty life where I was pursuing things of the world prior to meeting Jesus. Nothing satisfied me. I was starting this digital business. I launched my website a week before my son decided to come early. He was in NICU for a month. All that mattered to me was just being with him, bonding with him, because I too was a preemie and I didn't have that bonding experience with my mom in the 80s. So I was obsessed. And then every week was an appointment, every week was something. And it was a privilege to be able to be available as a mom the way that I was, and just this bond that we have. Then rolling into a pandemic, then coming out of a pandemic, and we moved here, it was becoming apparent that this business was not gonna take off for me, but so much of my identity, because I didn't know Christ at the time, was wrapped up in this business. I didn't know who I was outside of this. Mind you, I'm still raising this amazing kid, but internally I was going through it, starting to believe the lies when I had to shut everything down, that I was a loser, I was a failure. This was my one shot, and it didn't happen. And I wasn't handling it well. I would say it was kind of like a breakdown or a milder depression. Around this time, my son started coming into our room in the morning saying, "I had sweet dreams, Mama." And I'd be like, "Well, what did you dream about?" "I dreamed about God." And this little kid who's like 2.5 was saying this every morning, and I didn't know what to do with it. I thought it was cute. It was super cute and sweet. Privately, my husband, who also grew up in the Catholic faith, was reconnecting with God. And we were having a conversation. He was like, "Karenia, I found God again." And my exact words to him were, "You better find a divorce attorney too, because I am not doing that." Then a few months later, this is all within a matter of 6 months or so, I tragically lost one of my closest friends in an accident. And that was like the gut punch of all gut punches. And that really got me looking at my own life, questioning my own mortality. Where is my purpose? What does this all mean? Around this, I was not handling it my best. I was pretty disciplined in my lifestyle. I became someone I didn't even recognize anymore. I started emotionally eating, drinking more than I should. And one night I was up late having a glass of wine after everyone went to sleep. And I was on YouTube. This sermon popped up, and it was like the weirdest, most random, not random once you know God, because I was not searching for any church-related content whatsoever. I watched this sermon and I was just like, whoa. And I sent it to my husband. He was like, "That was awesome." So if you have young kids, date night can be difficult, especially if you don't have family close. So we kind of do a breakfast date once a week. And we went and had breakfast at a local restaurant. We made a turn and my jaw hit the floor. And I was like, "Babe, that's where that guy did that sermon." I just kind of was like, this is too weird. This is not an accident. Lucas, my son, around this time, and we didn't even say anything, but he started mentioning that he wanted to go to church. And I don't know how we didn't talk about this kind of stuff, but he said he wanted to start going to church. I was not ready for that. I thought church was weird. So I was a little let me dip my toe in. So we started watching online. At the beginning of the year, Lucas and I started going to church, and it became our thing. And when Dad can join us, because Dad works, he'll join us as well. But it took me being completely broken, and in my brokenness and falling to my knees, truly, my life changing, my perspective changing, finding true satisfaction, true peace, true fulfillment. I give my son all the credit to leading me to Christ. Even though I believe there were definitely invitations throughout my life, I just was not paying attention or remotely interested until I was so humbled and broken. I was thinking about it like God is my father, right? Like every single day I pursue the Lord. Like a little kid, when their dad comes home from work or whatever at the end of the day and they run up with their arms wide open, and that is how I feel. And I'm so grateful to my son, and I'm grateful to God for using my son. It's the sweetest, most like deliciously rich layer onto our relationship as mother and son. I'm just so grateful that our son is being raised putting Jesus first. He's so faithful, and that's just who he is. It's beautiful to witness. I'm very appreciative that God met me where I was. And sometimes I feel like, why didn't it happen for me sooner? But I have to remind myself that it's God's time, not mine. I was in the culinary realm, but also in the fitness realm. I was very much in bondage. And honestly, if the business took off, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. It was a blessing in disguise, but I went through a mourning period because I wanted it so bad. And this is the other thing I've learned. You can't want something too much. I didn't expect it to fail. But here you are, a stay-at-home mom. If it took off, there would be a sacrifice. And I am thankful that I wasn't in the position where I had to make that choice. It was made for me. I was being protected. It was difficult, very difficult, painful. And it took me a long time to get over it. But when you trust the Lord, He's lighting my path. I had coffee with a friend, maybe like a month and a half, 2 months ago. She was like, well, what's next for you? I don't know. I don't need to know. I trust and I believe, and that's enough for me.